All right. Hello, everybody. I am super excited to talk to you guys about how to create your own happy and engaging workplace. This is a presentation meant for managers that have a team of individuals and have I don't know, maybe a goal or want of creating a workplace that is going to be a place where people want to come and also create a stress-free environment. So let me give you a little background of why I decided to make a presentation like this, and why I felt like it was important for this moment, right? So I am proud to admit that I am an 80s baby. I grew up in a Midwestern town, right, where you already have this Midwestern mentality of roll up your sleeves, get work done, get over it. If work is meant to be hard, right? Very scrappy upbringing, very much turnkey, latch kid, all of that stuff is the way I grew up. I'm a true Generation X, maybe older millennial, right? And with my tough exterior, I went to work and I knew that some of the spaces that I worked within, well, they kind of made me feel uncomfortable. But I didn't care. I knew that with my cultural background, I had to kind of break through this and just keep going and just keep working. Until one day, I actually got a chance to experience a work environment that made me feel valued. It made me feel seen and heard. And I mean, at first, I was a little taken aback by being in an environment like that. But then after a while, I started to find that I was excited to come to work. I was energized. I wanted to be there with my coworkers. And I kind of found myself flourishing in an environment like that. So, managers like you guys are today are not psychologists, right? But as the demands of work and life continue to merge, managers need to recognize that their employees may be struggling with stress, work-life balance, burnout, fears about their health and well-being of their families, and so much more, right? So, this workshop will provide specific tools based on brain science to help managers be a source of strength and support for their employees. Today, organizations want managers who are connected to their altruistic motivation to help people lead the best lives that they possibly can, and who are great for the business, helping their team members to perform to the best of their ability. Hello, everybody. My name's Camille Mason, and I want to challenge you to create environments where your people can reach their potential. Let's begin by discussing why happiness in the workplace is not just a nice to have, right, but a crucial element for organizational success. Research consistently shows that when employees are happy, productivity rises, creativity flows, and turnover rates drop. A happy workplace isn't just a more pleasant place to be, it's a driver of performance and resilience, quite frankly. So, a growing body of evidence and research shows that it's more about the social, cultural, and physical environments that we are collectively created that are driving each of us towards making the unhealthy choices we make, right? So think about it. The places we go, where we work, where we go to school, where we live, have such a powerful influence around the choices that we make. Meanwhile, most of the wellness solutions that are out there target the individual, right? And they fail to address these like really big, broader environmental and cultural influences, as Dr. Gabor Mate has emphasized in his work. So Dr. Gabor Mate, he is a family physician. He is of Canadian descent, but he wrote a wonderful set of books, one of which is the one you see on the screen called The Myth of Normals. My favorite book. Now, y'all, I gotta remind you, it is a thick book, okay? It's like 500 pages long. So it's a hefty book to read. I would suggest you get the audio book and listen to it on a long drive, right? But what he said, this quote right here, I mean, it kind of shook me to my core, right? He basically said, these are what people need, right? To feel happy, to feel seen and heard, a sense of belonging, having that sense of autonomy, mastery of competency, a genuine self-esteem, trust, and some kind of purpose. And so when he goes on to say, check your own experiences. What is it like when each of these things is happening in your life, right? What happens in your mind and body when it's lacking, denied, or when it's withdrawn? And when I read that, I had to sit and think, when have I ever felt that way? All five of those things were happening in my work life, my home life, my family life. And I had to stop and say, it's actually quite rare. And really what his book tries to emphasize here is that because of these like this culture we're living in, it's sort of initiating us into a level of trauma, illness, and sickness that we have to try to get over, right? But where there's a problem, there's an opportunity. And that opportunity that we have is to transform every workplace into a sanctuary of well-being so that employees are healthier because of where they work. Think about it. 3 billion people around the world convene at work every day, and work is where most adults spend the vast majority of their waking hours. So just think about it. 80% of your life is spent at work, y'all. If we consider the health statistics that we now face as a global community, leveraging every workplace to promote better health and well-being is simply the right thing to do. So with that, I kind of want to take a poll. Now, this will be my first time trying a poll, so bear with me. Let's see if we can do it. All right, so here we go. We're going to launch our poll here. So the question I have is, what is the single most important factor that impacts your own job satisfaction? So we have quite a bit here of options for you to choose. So go ahead and choose the ones that make the most sense, right? The things that you kind of think are what you're looking for. And we can even see in real time what this thing looks like what people actually want just by this small little control group we have here, right? No scientists. We won't be publishing this information, but at least we'll have an idea of the people that are here, right? What is it that we even look for when we're looking for a wellness, a good place to work, right? When you think about the next job you want to work for, like where do you think you want to work? And so what's interesting here is that we've got quite a bit of information here. It looks like opportunities for growth was really high, team culture, collaboration was really high, and then that third runner-up would be that work-life balance, which I think is pretty awesome there to see. So you can see right away, even with knowing that information, and thank you for participating, that was great. It is really insightful to see which factors are most influential in shaping our own job satisfaction. And as we can see, certain elements like work-life balance, recognition, et cetera, they stand out for many of us. These factors aren't just nice perks. They're essential to creating an environment where we feel engaged, motivated, and supported. But let us not take the words of this small sample group of us here. Let's explore the science to support your employees' well-being, right? So let's get a little bit of stats. Let's see what the people say, what the scientists say. So, guess what? In the United States, you will find that we, on average, in the United States, miss 5 days of work within the 12 months that we work just because we need a mental health day, right? And don't think for 1 second that this is only an American problem. No, my friends, it is not. In fact, you will find that this is a worldwide epidemic of people kind of unhappy, can't deal, and have to leave a couple of days just to get out of work for a while and have our mental health day, if you will. Germany being the worst. So, guess what? US, we're not that horrible. But on top of that, let's layer on a couple more things. 48% of people feel less engaged at work when dealing with low well-being. And then 37% of people fall behind on work responsibilities. And really, what this means is that you have a team that is becoming disengaged, right, from the workplace, disengaged from the mission of the business, which then in turn equals to basically a reduction of profit that you are getting and making overall, right? And so just in case you needed more figures to see the impact of having this sort of low well-being, the first stat is pretty staggering. I think the last one is the worst, but $300 billion are lost per year due to just work-related stress and things that people have to do. Think about EOC claims and all of the things that you have to deal with, stopping the progression of the business. The second stat that I found was $550 billion a year just for the cost of disengagement, meaning people not finishing their work, not meeting deadlines, not being at work, et cetera, et cetera. And the last most staggering piece of data here is $2.2 trillion a year total just for the businesses paying for stress and work-related illnesses. What a number, right? And I understand that healthcare costs are pretty large anyway, but if you think about the money that people are spending on their health and wellness, just to be able to come to work and deal with the stress of work, why it can be quite staggering. And if anybody out there wants a little bit of nerding out time, there is a way that you can look at what the workplace wellness studies that are going on right now all over the world, and then also specifically in the United States. The World Health Organization has a database that will show you all the in-progress clinical trials going on. If you type in workplace wellness, you'll see that there are 7 being underway right now. They won't be finished for quite a while because they're longitudinal studies, but if you click inside of them, you get to get an understanding of what they're studying and what the programs are like that they're studying it against, right? So if you feel like nerding out some more over the stats, please feel free to take a look. When I send you the slides, you'll get a chance to click on those links and it'll take you straight to those databases. It's really interesting to see. So with all of that, our goal today is to help you as managers build out your wellness program. We're going to do 4 things. One, we're going to talk about, well, what is this thing, the 6 components that one needs, a leader needs to make a well-being environment, right? 2, we'll talk about the types of policies that tend to work. 3, we'll give you some examples of policies that are working pretty well. And then 4, we're going to give you something like an action guide so that you don't walk away just kind of trying to think of what those things could be. We kind of walk through what has been clinically proven to work over some of these studies and some of the other studies that have happened and have closed out. All right, so with that, let's get into it. Let's start first with the core strategies for cultivating a workplace happiness program. So there's 6 components I feel that leadership should be looking into to make up a well-being centered leadership approach. So by prioritizing these areas, leaders can foster a positive, engaged workplace that supports both individual and team success. And these are the 6 components. We'll go over them in a minute. And these components are going to offer you actionable insights to create a thriving work environment. So let's explore each one and then discuss practical ways to bring them into your own teams. So the first one is going to be purpose. This is the first component. People are more engaged when they understand how their work aligns with the larger mission of the organization. As leaders, we can foster purpose by helping our teams connect their daily tasks to the bigger picture. A simple way to start is by sharing regular updates on team impact, encouraging employees to reflect on what aspects of their work feel most meaningful to them, and even a brief check-in during meetings asking, "What's one thing you felt really proud of this week?" can sort of reinforce that sense of purpose. Second is growth. We all want to feel like we're developing in our roles, right? That we're growing and we're going somewhere. Leaders can nurture growth by creating a culture that values learning, encourages curiosity, and treats mistakes as learning opportunities, right? So, one practical step here is to provide team members with the resources they need to stretch and develop themselves, whether through mentorship, maybe you do project rotation, or learning and development programs. Either way, you need something to get them to see their jobs beyond what they're doing today. Another idea is to celebrate both wins and lessons learned, fostering an environment where it's safe to feel like people can take calculated risk. The third thing is going to be health. This is my favorite component, and this has to do with your mental and physical well-beings, which are both foundational to productivity and creativity. Leaders can prioritize health by modeling healthy behaviors and making wellness resources easily accessible. So, for example, maybe you can encourage more breaks throughout the day, or setting boundaries on after-hours communication, or even hosting walk and talk meetings where team members can maintain their energy and reduce stress, right? These practices signal to the team that it's okay to prioritize their health. The third or fourth thing is agency, which really means giving employees a sense of control over their work. When people have autonomy, they're more engaged and persistent in reaching their goals. Leaders can support agency by providing flexibility in where and when and how work gets done, whenever possible, allowing team members to shape their roles or even to choose which projects they want to take on can empower them and boost their commitment to your company. Next, in the fifth component is connection. So strong relationships, a sense of belonging, right, are essential for a healthy workplace. Leaders play a crucial role here by fostering trust and encouraging collaboration. And one way to build connection is through team building activities that are meaningful. So please, God, not just the icebreakers, okay? But activities that actually help people learn about each other's strengths and work styles, okay? Additionally, creating a safe space for team members to share their challenges or offer support to each other can go a long way in building a supportive culture that doesn't need icebreakers all the time, right? And last and finally, and not least, we have resilience. Resilient teams bounce back from challenges and adapt to change more effectively, right? So, as leaders, we can cultivate resilience by setting realistic expectations, supporting each other through challenges, and celebrating perseverance. Encouraging people to take time for reflection or promoting resilience training can prepare teams to handle setbacks a little bit better, right? So together, all six of these components give leaders this comprehensive framework for making well-being a true priority. And by integrating these six things, right, into your leadership approach, you can sort of build a culture that supports your team's happiness and drives sustainable success. So we've just covered the six essential components: that purpose, growth, health, agency, connection, resilience, all of that leaders can use to foster that feeling of well-being. While these components provide an excellent framework, it's important to recognize that every workplace has its own unique needs. So before implementing well-being programs just for the sake of it, I think it's crucial to understand what your organization and team members need the most. And this is where a needs assessment kind of comes in. So, a needs assessment provides a structured way to gauge current levels of workplace satisfaction, health, and engagement. And by gathering direct feedback, you can identify the specific areas that require attention. So there's a great resource called What Works Center for Wellbeing that has a question bank as a model. So you don't have to start from scratch, right? They already have it built out for you with a cluster of questions that you could choose from. In this organization, you can create a tailored survey that covers these core domains, the six being the place we start, such as job satisfaction, work-life balance, and all the rest. So let's take a look at the key elements involved in conducting an effective needs assessment and how this step can help you prioritize initiatives for that maximum impact, right? So let's go with the very first domain here, which is job satisfaction. So this measures employees' overall contentment, right, with their roles, responsibilities, and work environments. So for instance, asking a question like, overall, how satisfied are you with your job, can reveal levels of engagement or highlight areas of improvement. The second category that I feel is important is just that work-life balance. We know balance is crucial for both productivity and well-being. And by asking employees about their satisfaction with the work-life balance, such as how satisfied are you with the balance between your work and personal life, we can kind of gauge and understand where pressure points might exist and where flexibility could make a difference, okay? The next is health and wellness and lifestyle. So here we're assessing both physical and mental health factors, right? So we're not going to get deep into that, but we want to try to get an idea of the stress level and lifestyle habits. So for instance, questions like, during the past month, how often have you felt stressed at work? Things like that, right? Responses here can indicate if stress management programs or other health resources might be valuable here to your team. Next will be purpose and engagement. So this addresses whether employees feel their work is meaningful, aligned with the organization's goals, asking something like, to what extent do you feel your work contributes to the organization's mission, can reveal the level of connection employees feel to their work, helping us identify areas to strengthen motivation and purpose. Next will be the social relationships. So strong workplace relationships are critical, really, for a sense of belonging and support. This domain might include questions such as, how satisfied are you with the level of support from your manager and colleagues? Responses here can inform us about team cohesion and managerial support. And then the last area to assess is whether employees feel they have control over their work and opportunities to use their skills effectively. So questions like, do you feel you have the autonomy needed to make decisions in your role, can kind of help you identify if employees feel empowered or if they feel more opportunities for independent work. So by focusing on these core domains, we ensure our assessment provides a holistic view of the workplace. This comprehensive approach allows us to address specific needs efficiently, leading to initiatives that truly support employee well-being and engagement. So now that we've identified the key domains, right, for our needs assessment, let's go over some essential steps to create an effective survey, right? Because we don't want this to be debunked. So we want it to be a good, sound survey. This approach ensures that our questions are clear, our data is reliable, right? And that we gather the information needed to make meaningful changes. Now, I'm not going to get deep into data analysis and survey development. I just want to touch on 6 key small things, and then we'll move on to implementing some of this stuff. So first, we start by selecting questions that it's best to choose questions that are validated questions, which is why I like the What Works Center for Wellbeing question bank, because they're all well validated and vetted, right? And it offers evidence-based questions across all of those 6 domains we just talked about. So I think using that bank is a good place to start. The next step is customizing the survey for your organization. So tailor the language to meet and match your company's language, culture, nuances. This could mean adapting terms, right, to align with what's familiar to employees, like changing maybe the word manager to a team leader, so whatever folks' titles might be. It's also important to avoid redundancy by eliminating any overlapping questions, right, to keep the survey as concise as possible. It kind of prevents survey fatigue. That's another thing you don't want to have happen. You don't want to have so many questions, redoing the same question in different ways. People will kind of like check out of the survey, and you don't want that to happen either. Kind of defeats the purpose, right, of doing all of this. Next, you want to ensure consistent scale, right? So using a single response scale like a 5-point Likert scale, making it easier for respondents to answer, allows for clearer data comparisons, right? So if we plan to benchmark results, you want to keep the scales consistent, so don't change them year after year, right? So you make the data as clean as possible. Next, you want to make sure that you are testing the survey for clarity. So I think running a pilot, maybe with a small group of, like a focus group of employees, is a good way to just make sure the data comes out clean on the other end. And that people feel good about it. They don't think it's too long. They don't drop out of the process, et cetera, et cetera. So you can use the feedback to make the small adjustments at that point before you send it out company-wide. Finally, you want to launch and you want to encourage participation. So before rolling out the survey to everybody in the organization, I think it's important to sort of queue up all of this stuff and give it a reason why, maybe have leadership from the top, bring it up, talk about it, why it's so important, right? Also, too, it's important to provide clear instructions, reassure employees that their responses are anonymous so they can feel comfortable, right, filling it out. Emphasize the purpose of the survey to improve workplace well-being, and share how their feedback will make a difference. To me, this transparency approach helps increase participation rates and ensures that responses are truly candid, right? Because sometimes people will just make it up because they feel like, oh, they're going to know I said this. So try to make it as clean and what can I say? Make it as transparent as possible. Make people feel comfortable to actually be honest in these answers. So by following these 5 steps, we'll create a needs assessment survey that's aligned with your objectives, user-friendly, and ultimately can be a powerful tool for shaping a happier, more engaged workplace. So, like I said, we talked about this. So here is sort of their older packet that I used years ago when I made my wellness survey for my team a long time ago. This is one of the best resources for creating a targeted, reliable needs assessment, is the What Works Center for Wellbeing. and its Workplace Well-Being Question Bank. This organization is dedicated to advancing well-being through research-backed frameworks, which makes it an ideal tool for organizations aiming to improve employee satisfaction and engagement. So first, this resource provides evidence-based framework. They have a question bank. It's built off of validated research. It's been tested across various industries, ensuring that it is a reliable assessment, right? A reliable bank of questions. Another great benefit is its comprehensive coverage of well-being domains. So those 6 domains we talked about, it has questions for each one of them, covering everything from mental health, job satisfaction, work-life balance, you name it. This gives you a holistic view of the workplace well-being, allowing you to create a truly comprehensive assessment. Importantly, it's also customizable for your organization. So it's basically copy, paste, refine, and then you're ready to rock and roll, really. And also, additionally, which I love about this organization, is that it gives you the ability to benchmark where other people are. So they do have some studies that they have in their portfolio where you can look to see what the benchmark typically tends to be for every different industry, which I think is really helpful there. And finally, they also have a few action-orientated insights. It not only helps in gathering data, but also offers somewhat of a roadmap to turn that data into actionable well-being programs. By following these insights, you can implement targeted initiatives that have a measurable positive impact on your workplace culture. So using this resource as your foundation, you can create a high quality needs assessment that provides valuable data and sets the stage for that meaningful change within your organization y'all are looking for. All right, so once you've completed your needs assessment, the next step is to turn those findings into concrete actionable goals. And I feel like this is the point and part where you should bring upper leadership involved, let them look at the data, talk about what you're learning, talk about what it says. Because it's one thing to identify areas of improvement, but it's another to set targeted goals that will actually lead to real change. And you want everybody to kind of be on board and see that data. So now that you've gathered that data, whatever, it's time to translate those findings into targeted well-being initiatives. So you want to follow it by analyzing the results, of course, setting SMART goals, engaging with the stakeholders, and developing an action plan. And we can ensure our approach is strategic, aligned with employee needs, and set up for measurable success. So let's take a closer look at each one of these steps, right? So first you want to analyze the data. You want to review the data. You want to identify high impact areas and start to see what the common themes are. So you want to notice things like if you have low satisfaction and work-life balance or high levels of reported stress. These might be areas to prioritize when you start thinking about the solutions. When you, with those insights, then you want to move to actually setting some goals. So, of course, the objectives, just as you know, with SMART goals, y'all, you want to have specific, measurable, actionable, achievable, and relevant and time bound. So that means that rather than setting a vague goal like we're going to improve employee well-being, you actually have to set what you're going to do in the target goals and introduce whatever that item is. So for instance, if you wanted to introduce a flexible scheduling policy by Q2 or Q3, right? Or reduce reported stress levels by 20% in the next year, right? So you gotta have to bring something that can be measurable. If it's not measurable, then it's not worth your time, really. You want to also talk to and engage stakeholders. To me, this is very crucial. Sometimes I think well-being initiatives are most effective when leaders, HR, and other departments are on board first, okay? Because I think employees can kind of smell when people are not truly being honest about wellness initiatives. So it hits better, I feel, when leadership says, I'm going to do it too. I'm going to talk about it and I'm going to demonstrate it, right? So engaging those stakeholders ensures that your goals are aligned with broader organizational priorities and that the initiatives we implement have the support they need to succeed. And finally, you want to develop that action plan. This is where we establish timelines, assign responsibilities, determine who and how we're going to track the progress. So, for example, if you're launching a flexible work program, we might assign an HR representative to oversee its rollout, set a quarterly check-in, assess how it's been received, et cetera, et cetera. Y'all get the picture. So by following these steps, we take our assessment results from insights to action and then building a structured approach to improve workplace well-being and create actual meaningful change, right? Okay, so let's talk about those actionable steps to improve workplace culture and get an idea of what that typically tends to look like. Again, this is going to be different for every organization, different for every team, right? So just be mindful of that, that this isn't like a cut and dried solution, but I do find that these solutions are quite helpful. So, as leaders, you have the opportunity to multiply well-being within your team. So, let's look at my favorite three powerful steps, which is called do, speak, and create, that you can help foster a well-being centered culture and support your team members in meaningful ways. So the first step, we're going to look at each one deeply, is called the do model. So this is about showing up for your own well-being, right? When leaders prioritize their own self-care and model it, they signal to their team that well-being is valued. You don't need to be perfect. We've got days. I get it. We're gonna freak out or we're gonna be working late and all of this stuff. I get it. But what matters is that you're making an effort. Participating in wellness activities, taking breaks shows the team it's okay to invest in their own health. Each time you model well-being behavior, you grant your team permission to do the same, right? The second is going to be speak. So talking about what matters. So open communication about well-being makes it a normalized part of work culture. So for instance, share your own well-being goals with the team. This might look like mentioning an upcoming wellness event that's happening at the company and asking people who's going to yoga tonight or whatever you guys might have, right? Or what's something you're doing for yourself this week? Is everybody going to make sure they leave early today because we worked late yesterday? Whatever the case is, you need to demonstrate it to your team. These conversations build trust, they break down stigma, they encourage team members to focus on their own well-being. Think about this as a way to talk the walk, right? Engaging in honest conversation that show your commitment to a healthier work environment. And then finally, y'all, is creating it. So establishing those team-based rituals. So team culture is often shaped by simple, consistent practices that cost no money, y'all. You can introduce small rituals that emphasize well-being, like starting each meeting with a quick check-in or holding one-on-one walk-in meetings with folks, not even just to talk about work, but just to be like, how's everything going? How do you feel? What's going on with that project that you were working on last week? Did that work out well? Just a sense of just wanting to get to know people and make them feel seen, right? These practices don't have to be big. What matters is the sense of consistency. So you have to do it over and over and connection that people will feel. Um, so, for instance, someone at Clovis Oncology created a routine of walking out of the office with a team member each day, signaling the end of the workday and prioritizing work-life balance. I kind of tell people, all right, it's 5 o'clock, it's 5:15. Come on, y'all, let's go. Let's go home. We've got other stuff we can do. Let's lock the doors. Let's get out of here, kind of thing, right? So these three steps, do, speak, create, are actionable ways to multiply well-being in your team as leaders. By modeling these behaviors, we help shape a healthier, more engaged workplace culture for everyone. So let's deep dive a little bit more into it so we get a better idea of some other things that one can do that can help you create this sense of well-being. We'll start with the do. So I would start by making your own well-being a priority, just like I said. So join in on wellness activities, embrace practices that promote health and well-being. Um, there's a book that you guys can read called Happy at Work if you're really interested in deep diving into this. Great book. It emphasizes that when leaders lead by example, it creates a ripple effect. Your actions give others permission to invest in their own health and well-being without feeling guilty or selfish or feeling like I'm not going to be like the rest of everybody here, right? Like this isn't what the company norms are. So try to demonstrate that if you can. I also think that setting boundaries and leading with balance. So in a sense, modeling healthy limits like respecting work hours, stepping away when needed, reinforces this idea of balance. And remember that book I told you about, Happy at Work? It points out setting boundaries is key to avoiding burnout and sustaining long-term well-being. When you respect your own limits, you give your team permission to do the same. So by modeling this behavior, you're not just encouraging well-being, you're embedding it into the actual culture. Next, second step we talked about was speak. So openly discussing well-being with your team. When leaders talk about health and wellness, it kind of normalizes these conversations, making them a regular part of the workplace culture. So speaking up is a simple yet powerful way to create a supportive environment. So I always say start by sharing your own well-being goals, right? So for instance, if you're working on taking more breaks during the day or setting boundaries around work hours, talk about it. I know for me, I'm a workaholic. I will work all hours of the night and sometimes weekends if I have to get something done, right? But I will often tell my team, you don't have to model after me. That's not my expectation, right? I expect you to get your work done, yes, but I do not expect you to burn out, and I should listen to my own advice, right? But again, I do find balance by taking some time off when I do have those late nights, like tonight, right? I do find that balance. And also in that book, Happy at Work, it highlights that leaders who share their own personal struggles and goals, it sort of creates an environment of mutual support. You look like a human being, a real person. And by being open, you're signaling that it's okay and even encouraged to work on one's own well-being and that it's an ever evolving thing, right? And then, of course, encouraging participation in well-being initiatives instead of just forwarding an email, mindless workshop mentions and meetings, right? But really showing up and asking, did y'all go to that event last night? It was great, whatever it was. So that's another way of doing it. But also, the next thing I like is engaging in what I call real conversations about health and well-being. And this can be simple as asking team members, how are you taking care of yourself this week? Like if you see that person's going through a stressful time, you want to ask those questions to see what they're doing. Or asking questions like, what's something you're looking forward to outside of work? The book Happy at Work emphasizes that leaders take an interest in employees as whole individuals. It fosters a sense of being seen and value. These small moments of connection show that well-being isn't just a program or something on a piece of paper, but it truly is a priority to you and leadership. One of my favorite, I guess, one of my mentors gave me this. It was a valuable tool that I absolutely love and has really helped me to maintain and retain my team over the years when I had a team back then. And what it is called is it's kind of like unlike the exit interview, right? Which happens when it's too damn late, really, at that point, to save that person, especially if they're a strong worker and they're a rock star on your team and you really don't want to lose them. So for those kind of people, for sure, I like to do stay interviews because it helps me get more insight into what is keeping that person engaged and what improvements could make their experience even better. So I want to make it better before it gets bad for them. So the purpose of what I call a stay interview is to understand why the employee stays, what they value most in their role, and what might potentially lead them to consider other opportunities. So to me, it's a very proactive approach that focuses on building retention and addressing team members' needs before they have reasons to leave the institution, right? Because at that point, it's too late. So when conducting a stay interview, some of the key questions I like to ask are there on the screen, but I usually will ask at least one question when I have my one-on-ones, which will be, what do you look forward to each day working in this organization, working in the role you're in? And really, this question just helps to reveal what aspects of the job are most engaging for them. And at that point, y'all have to sit down and take note of that and have an idea of one, these are the programs, the projects that really tap into that person's strength. So kind of mentally think about which programs, projects do I think that member can continue to do as you start looking to what the future of the company is going to do. You can start sort of thinking about who might be a great fit for it because you want to try to keep your good people, right? And so, of course, follow up with them. What might tempt you to consider other opportunities? This is a spicy question, no lie, but this opens the door for them to share any current frustrations or areas for improvement. And lastly, asking things like, what changes could improve your experience here at work? A question that encourages them to suggest practical adjustments that could enhance their day-to-day experience. To me, stay interviews offer significant benefits for team well-being. Just to be asked that makes people feel seen and heard, right? It helps you to build trust by creating an open line of communication, showing team members that their input is valued and that you're willing to listen to this. And by addressing potential issues early, you're more likely to prevent that burnout and keep your top performers. And that's really what you want, especially right now when it's slim pickings out there sometimes for companies. So just something to think about. And then the third and last step here is going to be multiplying well-being is to create. So you need to build some rituals that integrate well-being into the daily rhythm of your work. Small, regular practices that support health and connection can make a big impact on your team that cost little to no money and making well-being a natural part of that workplace. So one place to start is beginning meetings with a brief check-in. So we're talking about one-on-ones and bigger team check-in, right? This could be as simple as sharing one thing you're grateful for or a goal you're working on currently, or tell me something that is stressing you out. Is there a project that's stressing this person out at this moment, and how can you help, right? And the book, Happy at Work, which I love, still hope you guys read, notes that even small check-ins can transform meetings from being purely transactional, meaning that person just updating you, et cetera, to turning it into becoming relational, fostering a space for connection and support. And this really, guys, only takes a minute or two, usually at the end of the meeting so that the important things can be said, and just have like 15 minutes to just ask those deep probing questions to see where they are and do one of those stay interviews, if you will, right? Reminding everyone that they are part of a supportive team and you want them to stay. Another great ritual to incorporate that I feel works really well is to celebrate small wins and progress regularly, right? It's easy to recognize big achievements, but also celebrating the smaller wins. Sometimes people just want to be seen, right? Even if it is small. So personal milestones can also boost morale, strengthen team bonds. So, for example, you could have a quick wins round, everybody say a quick win that you guys did and congratulate people, right? So, once a week, where team members share something they're proud of or a positive change they've made can really make people feel like, oh my goodness, someone sees me here. And the book Happy at Work, once again, my favorite, highlights that frequent small celebrations create a sense of positivity and accomplishments that enhances that team engagement. So by establishing these simple rituals, you create a workplace environment that values health, balance, and connection. These rituals help make well-being an integral part of how your team works together every day. All right, y'all. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this powerful quote from organizational psychologist Adam Grant. He says, burnout is not in your head, it's in your circumstances. It's rare that only one person is burning out. It's usually a team or an entire organization. And that means there's something wrong with the structure of the work or the culture of the workplace. I really like this quote because it reminds us that burnout isn't just an individual problem, it's a systematic one. If we want to prevent burnout, it's not enough to encourage self-care or resilience or a couple of yoga classes or whatever. You actually need to address the structural and cultural issues that continue to stress and cause exhaustion. As leaders, you have the opportunity to create supportive environments, prioritize well-being, and shape a culture where people can thrive. So let's take this insight forward. Together, we can build a workplace that values health, empowers individuals, and supports each person in their journey to balance and well-being. Thank you guys for your commitment to creating a healthier and happier workplace. And with that, I wanted to just once again let you guys know that if you want any more help or you want us to look at the data of your impact survey or wellness survey and sort of come up with ideas of what to do and what you could do for your organizations, I'll be happy to help you. Again, if you're not an MBA at UNC student and you still want to meet with me and have those kind of conversations, we certainly can. All you have to do is just shoot me an email and I'll find a time where we can meet. And again, I'm one of the associate directors of career coaching. I mainly work with MBA UNC students, but definitely open to talking to anybody who might need help as they're building their own wellness program for themselves. And with that, thank you guys for coming to our session today. Have a wonderful day.